All right, looks like we are live. So very happy to have all of you here. It is Thursday evening or Thursday afternoon, depending on where you are. Or actually, for some of you that are on our channel, you're out in Asia. We have some Asian friends as well. So it's Friday morning. So good morning to some of you as well. Delighted to have a friend of mine, Mattie Miller, as a special guest. Mattie, great to see you. And Mattie and I were just doing a chat over on her channel. And guys, we're experimenting with something that's new for me, and Mattie's actually teaching me. So you're going to hear her story. She's a non-techie person teaching another non-techie person how to do stuff. But we are trying something new called StreamYard. So if you want to comment on the chat, you need to give StreamYard permission to use your name so we can see your name. Otherwise, you just show up as Facebook user, I think, yes. We'd like to know who you are, so just engage. But anyway, for us, it's a privilege to be here. We're giving stories like this. Mattie's doing it with some people. I'm doing it with some people. We've done it on Fridays, and now got a special one with Mattie Miller. So, Mattie, I know you have, not your typical rah-rah network marketing. I used to work for an IT company kind of story, right? So. Yep. Tell us a little bit. I love, and guys, pay attention to this because, I'm not going to say if Mattie can do it, anybody can do it. But if Mattie can do it, anybody can do it if you listen to her story, actually. So talking especially to you guys that are not techie, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form putting Mattie down. You'll hear her background and why I just said what I just said. So, Mattie, I know your backstory somewhat, but want to hear more about it. And please share with the folks here, your traditional background and tell us about electricity and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you so much, James, for having me on your channel. This is awesome. I'm really excited to share with everybody tonight. What I grew up as an Amish person. I grew up in a family of 10. Now I'm going to tell you a little funny story, but I'll keep that for the end. So if you want to hear that, you got to stick around.
There you
go. But I grew up in a family of 10, and my non-techie story is our house was not wired with electricity. If we wanted light, it was a gas lantern, wow. Typical, the gas lanterns. And my family, some of my family actually still lives that way.
Yeah.
And so growing up in a home without electricity, without a phone, I was taught that somebody like me, like us, that we were taught not to have a phone. If we had a phone, that was sin. That was just wrong.
Yeah.
And so, those types of things when you grow.
Amish, yeah. I mean, there's different versions, but you were in the strict version.
Yeah, there's many different versions. But we were some of the stricter ones, yes. And, I grew up on a farm. I'm a farm girl. I grew up hitching up horses and plowing a field with 6 horses.
Wow.
So these big, huge horses, that was my life in the summer. And milking cows by hand. That was our income. Milking cows and selling milk, that was our income. Part of it. My dad was an entrepreneur. He had a sawmill. He was always doing things to make a living from home, to make a living as a family. Was it milking cows or sawing logs or whatever it was as a family.
Right.
I very strongly believed in working together as a family. And so those were the types of things that, that we did, and it's how I grew up. I did that until I was 18, and I know that I remember thinking, I wonder what life is like on the outside. You see other people, you see people driving cars, having phones, doing whatever, and working in a restaurant. I always thought I would work in a restaurant.
Wow.
But
okay.
So I remember thinking those things, but I never actually thought that I could leave, because I also knew I had a brother and an older sister who left before I did. And when you leave, you are ostracized from the community. You
Yeah.
are looked down upon. You're like, oh, I don't even know how to explain it. It when I would, even now when I go home to visit my family, to visit my mom, my dad passed on March a year ago.
Mm.
And so now when I go home to visit my mom, I cannot sit at the same table and eat lunch with her. It's
Mm.
not allowed. So
Wow.
that's how strict it is.
Yeah, I get you.
And but my daughters, they can, because they weren't born into that. So they could.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so it's different for them than it is for me, which is totally fine. It's okay. It took me a long time to kind of get through that, because it didn't feel good. Um, Basically, I left home. When I left home the first time, I left home with what was on my back, and that was it.
Mm.
I had nothing. And I would be remiss to say anything, or to try and name everybody that tried to help me, because there was so many people that tried to help and who did help. And so I would not even try that. So after I'd left, I got the traditional job, and I remember I worked at a factory, furniture factory. And I remember thinking, because I would work sometimes 12, 16-hour days. And I remember thinking, oh, if this is what it's like, forget it.
Right.
There's no life. You have, I mean, you might have Friday or Saturday and Sunday to rest, but there's no life. You can't go and have fun. You don't do any of that. And so that was hard for me. When
Mm.
I first got started when I first saw network marketing, I was in love. I thought, oh, this is going to be easy.
Well, you had
And
that entrepreneurial training from your family, right? So you had that in your bloodstream, kind of, yeah.
I did.
But when was this? Because that's I'm curious just to get your story a little bit more.
When the first time I left was in 1996. I was 18 years old.
Right.
Um, and when I first left, I actually got sick. I was outside of the community for 4 months, and I got sick with mono, if you know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just in a month's time, I had a car, an apartment for the first time in my life, with a car with a car payment, insurance, rent payment, all of those things. And suddenly I'm sick and I can't work.
Yeah. Right.
So um, I went back home. And for years, I actually thought that was really a bad thing. That was just the dumbest thing I could ever done. But today, I know that I was not ready for what was out there. And I'm
Mm.
thankful that I went back home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a little bit more idea what to expect. And then that was when I was 18, and then at 22 I left again.
Mm-hmm.
And this time again I left with what I had with me, which was not very much. Um Again, I went the same company that had hired me before, the furniture factory.
Uh-huh.
When I walked in there and they found out I was back, they're like, "Yes, you're hired right now." And so they hired me back on the spot, and I started working there again. And this time I worked there for 6 years. But when I saw that the at age 22, I think, I saw the network marketing side of things for the first time.
Okay.
And when I saw that, I just knew I had to become a part of it.
Hmm.
And it was, I wanted to be a part of it, but when I was taught to just go and talk to people, the very first thing I was taught was to talk to people and bring them to a meeting. They had like, I don't know, was it weekly meetings or whatever? And I was
Yeah.
supposed to bring them to a meeting.
Traditional deal. My wife and I did the same thing. I think I shared with you. We
Yep.
would go every weekend to, coffee shop meetings, and then as we grew a little bit, we'd go to hotel meetings, and it was a rough deal, right? And you
Mhm.
had the same experience. It sounds like.
My biggest thing was people were like, well, what is it? How were they supposed to know if they wanted to spend the time to go if I couldn't even tell them what it was? But
Mm-hmm.
I was taught not to. And so I could never get anybody to the meeting. People didn't see me as a leader, and I wasn't a leader at.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing, so I didn't actually. That company did not last long. That company was not there very long. And then I had at that point I was like, okay, I'm done. That's not fun to do that. To try to get people to go to a meeting and not, you know. But then the next one was it was a when I got started again in a health and wellness company, it
Uh-huh.
actually the only reason I got started was at the time, the products they had at the time really helped me with my health. And
Okay.
I had high blood sugar and it took care of that.
Awesome. Yeah. Good.
But then again, that's when I got into the copy and paste messages or being spammy or sending these messages that were basically I was friending people only to them pitch them my stuff,
Right.
instead of the other way around.
So when is this, Mattie? This is a couple years ago now.
This was 6 years ago now.
6 years ago. So about the same time as my wife Grace and I got into the industry. Yeah. So
Sure.
then I know the time because when we failed at the hotel meeting, the coffee shop meeting thing, that's what I went and did too. I would go into Facebook groups and drop my affiliate link in there and try to quote unquote friend the people that were in that group and then send them my link without even knowing who they were. So yeah, we all were kind of doing the same bad stuff, right?
Yep. Very
By the
true.
way, I see some folks have come on here. So we're interviewing today Mattie Miller, and actually I see one of the people on here is from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So if you're from Pennsylvania, you probably know the Amish country. Mattie's traditional Amish who left a traditional home to pursue entrepreneurship and a different kind of freedom. So a lot of different kinds of freedom, but she's pursuing her brand of freedom and telling us her story. But we're especially talking to people who are non-techies because Mattie, you were just saying earlier, you grew up without electricity and without a phone and a lot of things. So this is like your ultimate non-techie. All right. So you're in network marketing 6 years. Now let's continue on. Yep.
Okay. And so, for the longest time, I stayed with that company because I loved the product. I absolutely loved the product until they changed it.
Oh,
So
okay.
again, then they changed the product. Now I'm like, okay, well, that kind of leaves me sitting because it was working before.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that because we are we're taught as in network marketing, we are basically out there being their spam bots and
Yeah.
and selling it for them. And yes, we do get compensated for that, but then they change the product on us. So finally, um I knew I needed to find a different product. But to back up a little bit, it was right now about a year ago. Actually, no, it was April a year ago. I found attraction marketing, or I should say, attraction marketing found me.
You attracted.
And
Yeah.
very, very. And I had no clue. When I first got started, I had no idea what I was in for, like what I had my hands on, until I went to the event in Las Vegas in last May,
Yeah.
like
So that would
May
have
a
been
year ago.
the first time that we connected, because my wife Grace and I were there with you. I think I remember you standing up and you
I
were
was
clapping. Yeah, I
I
remember
was
that.
up on stage. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, yeah,
I still
that's
don't
good.
know how I did that. That was crazy. But so then I saw a little bit what I had my hands on.
Right.
But even that was just the tip of the iceberg. And at that event is when I knew that I was going to go um, have a year. I wanted a year of month to month training, every month training. And so I paid for that, and I tell you what, it is the best money I've ever spent when it comes to any kind of training for business. Um, it it really teaches you how to attract that perfect prospect to yourself, and how to bring value to the industry. Because I didn't know what that was. I had no idea. And somebody would say add value to someone. I'm like, how do I do that?
What is this, like a gasoline pump? I squirted
Yeah,
on them. What is adding value to someone? What is?
yeah.
So give us some examples, Mattie, because maybe someone's out here. What are you talking about? What is this adding value stuff?
Adding value is, let's say, well, like you and I, we're both non-techie.
Right.
You've learned how to use Zoom. I've
Yeah.
learned how to use StreamYard. We can teach each other. But what I'm really talking about is, I have a topic that's been burning on my heart for about a month now. And I'm trying to get it together to actually share it on my page. And that is, the topic is cost versus value.
Okay.
If you How do you know if something is of the value that it actually costs? And so when we're looking at buying something, are we looking at the cost, or are we looking at what value that brings to our life?
Right.
Now, if I can share that with somebody, if I can take something that I've learned and share it with my followers, that's adding value to them. If it resonates with them, only I think only the person who is listening or who is following you can decide, well, was that valuable or not?
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean about, adding value to people's lives. And then, so to back up a little bit, when I got started, let's see, about 5 years ago, I actually moved to Ohio, and now I left the Amish back 2000. Year 2000 is when I left.
Was that Pennsylvania, by the way?
No, that was Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. Okay.
Yep.
Just checking. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. But yeah, I get it.
So I left at that point. 5 years ago, I moved to Ohio, and I am now a taxi driver for the Amish here. Talk about a dynamic.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah.
So what I can do, because I know how they think. I know how they grew up. I know their background. I know their language. So I own a big 15 passenger van. And when they need to go somewhere, guess who they're calling?
Sure. Yeah.
So that's still the entrepreneurial spirit in me.
There you go, Sister Mattie.
So back to the network marketing side. The company I was in, I did not get any support to build the way you and I are building now. They were very negative about it. Absolutely told me, not to do it. But I saw the value of it. What I'm working on now is branding me.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of thousands of good products out there, but you have to have a product that resonates with you, and you have to. I want to be in a place where I can make an impact for the times that we're in.
Right.
And so that is why I finally had to leave the company that I was with, because first of all, they changed the product on me, and I didn't get the support to build the way I felt that aligned with me. It needed to align with who I am. And so I left the company, and I am now in a company that teaches the attraction marketing way.
Yeah, that's great.
And they teach that strategy in the network marketing company, which
That's
is
really
absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So that part of it is what I needed to find.
So you said you came to our the conference, was the No Excuses number 10 last year in Las Vegas, 2019.
Yes.
How did you find out about that? I mean, so what's the backstory? You found out about Elite Marketing Pro from somebody. So what's that story? Little that story.
Okay, a little of that story is, you know who John and Nadia Melton are?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. He was selling a ticket. He was selling tickets for the event.
Okay.
And I said, well, I would if I could. And he said, always an excuse, right? And I said, well, and I was already booked with my hauling business. I was already booked for that weekend.
Yeah.
And then he was selling tickets for the next weekend for something for the No Excuses 10. And he said, well, there's another one, next weekend or whatever. And then that part I wasn't booked for. So, and he said, if you show up, you get your money back. Well, by the time I got there and saw what I had my hands on, I said, I don't want my money back. Give me that extra day of learning this ad copy stuff, and I don't want my money back.
Right.
So I didn't get my money back, but I got way more value than that out of that day.
Cost versus value thing you were talking about before, that's a really good example, because what you learned for I think it's like $180 or whatever the deposit was.
It was $197.
Okay, there you go. Right. So $197, and you learned a skill set that can earn you thousands.
Exactly.
So kind of a nice exchange.
Yeah.
That's a good illustration.
So the little story that I wanted to save to the end. So picture this. I'm the baby of the family of 10. And my siblings teased me to no end about being the baby, being spoiled rotten. And I have to say, my dad did spoil me. And I was a daddy's girl, 100%.
Right.
But I would always tell them that mom and dad wanted the perfect child. So when they had me, they could stop.
There you go.
That's my funny little story.
Well, that's good. And they got the perfect child. So that's really cool. Mattie, let's just talk. I mean, it's hard to say in a year's time, but give us some takeaways, like before and after, a year ago and today? Now you've changed companies, but what about, what kind of response are you getting in the marketplace from what you've been learning over the last year?
The response is like night and day. Today, and you can go check out my business page. You can check out my personal profile. And today I live, and I'm no longer spamming people with copy and paste messages. If I put a post out there, I think about what message I want to convey to my people, to the people who follow me. And it's not just a quick on the fly message. It's what message do I want to convey? And very seldom do I ask anyone, are you interested in the product? Or are you interested? When I put out a post or something, if someone comes to me, I ask them, what can I do for you? How can I help you? And that's the difference. A year ago, I was, oh, you need this, you need this. Today, it's how can I help? What is your vision? What are you wanting here? And so it's like flipped. People are attracted to my story, they're attracted to my brand, and I can find out when we make that connection, then I can find out how I can help them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. And I can just say, I mean, I've been watching you from afar, and then a couple of times in person, obviously. But the first time, I can remember first impressions, and I remember seeing you in LA, which is now 6 months ago, right?
Yes.
We were there in January, so it's almost 6 months now. And
Yeah.
even from last May to January, I could see you growing in confidence. A year ago, you were you gave the appearance of being confused, a little bit confused, and feeling overwhelmed,
Mm-hmm.
and really hungry.
I
Really,
was.
yeah. And that's a nice combination. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that combination of being a little confused, because, we all need to kind of find a path. But the nice thing about the system we're in is it's 1, 2, 3, takes you from step A to B to C to D, all
Yeah.
the way.
It's step by step, and that's the beauty of it. I I I don't know. I hate to think of where I would be if John hadn't pointed me in that direction.
Yeah. Yeah, I love John and Nadia too. John is the one person in the world, I love to tell this story too. He's the one person in the world who has private messaged me happy birthday for 5 straight years in a row.
Nice.
Right? That's one of his social media techniques. He does that probably with his whole list. So but it's hard not to feel special when the only person in the world, happens to be John Melton, and
Yeah.
so he's a master social media networker, but he's just such a genuine person, and that's what comes through. So yeah, you've got a great mentor. You've learned from John. I met John through Ray Higdon. So you and I were talking earlier. Ray Higdon and John and I were in the same community with Ray Higdon, which is where
Yeah.
we do a lot of our stuff together.
Mm-hmm.
But Mattie, congratulations! So proud of you just to see your success, and I think it'll really speak to a lot of people here. So how about any final comments from the woman who went from the no electricity start to now really being on your game in pretty sophisticated internet marketing that actually boils down to being simple. So
Mm-hmm.
what final kind of comment would you have for folks?
What I would say is this: figure out where you want to go in life. I'm gonna back up a little bit. In that,
Yep.
a year ago, when I was in that conference in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
I walked out of that conference with my computer on my bag and computer bag on my shoulder and my purse on the other. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. Years ago, years before I left the Amish, years before I even realized what it would take to get there, I remember this. I wanted to be a business owner. And then after I left, I went through hell on earth with some of the things I went through was absolutely more than any human should ever have to endure.
Mm.
And that was, personal things.
Yeah.
But I realized that picture of me walking out with my computer bag on one arm, my purse on the other, was years ago. I saw myself in that position. That's what I wanted. And suddenly it hit me. I'm there.
Wow. Could
So
you say
what I
that?
would say,
That's super profound. Could you say that again just a second? Because that is really deep. Say that again, please.
I realized that years ago, I had seen myself in that position of having my computer bag on one arm, my purse on the other, and being alone in a big city. And I didn't realize it until I walked out of that meeting. I'm like, I'm there. All of a sudden it hit. And it really made an impact on me. So what I would say in parting is that if you truly want something, do not give up. Find someone who can help you take those steps and take them boldly. Now, one more thing, and I was inspired to read this. I'm gonna read this to you. And believe in myself enough to face my fear head on, knowing I could fail, but willing to take the chance anyway.
Love that.
I put that quote on my stories today because it just resonated with me.
Yeah, amen. That's beautiful. Well, Mattie, thank you super, super, super much. And just looking at some of the comments, Lynn says, loved your story and what you've said. That's our friend from Pennsylvania, by the way. So
Awesome.
I don't know her, but really, really heart-touching and inspiring as well. So we're going to look forward to being together in the community. Now, for those of you watching, if you'd like to plug into what Mattie plugged into, we've got a free offer for you. It's actually written by one of our mentors. We have a mutual mentor. His name is Fernie Ceballos, and Fernie has written this very cool thing called the Attraction Marketing Formula. It's a free guide, and I'm delighted to give that to you for free. You can take a look at that. And if you'd like to get more resources like what Mattie and I and Fernie and thousands of others have plugged into to become successful in this industry and to see the kind of growth that you've heard from Mattie, you can experience the same kind of growth in 6 months or a year. And it's not just beyond techie copy and paste. It's heart stuff, it's mind stuff, it's healing of the whole body, mind and spirit kind of stuff. But it starts with some knowledge and learning some skills, and that part of it's important as well. So I'm popping into the chat a resource that you can get from Grace and myself. And if you got value later or whatever, just I'll let Mattie know. She may not see it right away, but I'll let her know how much you appreciated her story. We certainly appreciate it. Lynn says she loved it as well. So we're getting some great comments in the chat. So Mattie, I want to thank you for joining in today. I'm going to bring you sometime. We do a Friday webinar as well. So we'll do the Zoom thing some other time, or we can schedule something special between us. But absolutely amazing story. Thank you so much for sharing. And again, for all of you that are watching, whether it's a replay or not, give us a little comment, give us a little like on this one. A special time with Mattie Miller, rock star, and really inspiring story. So thank you everybody for watching. Take good care. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mattie.